Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, section number 2. We're going 125, 126, the rotation number down to 305, 306. Starts with Texas, Kansas, down to Georgia, Missouri. We're going down in rotation order. The Saturday college football game as we hit every single college football game on the board with our next guest, Tony Finn at WagerTalk on Twitter. Tony, welcome in. How you feeling?
Feeling great. That's it is February, as we talked about. I just realized it really is February, and we're getting ready for the Super Bowl. That's why I'm feeling a little bit tired today. No, everything's doing good, real good. Like I said, we haven't solved the pandemic yet. We haven't discovered the winning lottery numbers, but we'll make it through tonight, I'm sure.
Absolutely, man. We got Proud Babylonian in the chat box. Johnny Outlaw saying Tony's in the house. He is in the house. High IQ. He's trying to solve COVID-19, getting that vaccine on his downtime from sports betting. He's a man of many talents, guys.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Okay at everything. Not very good at anything. I got it.
Well, hopefully we can get on some of the right sides here, Tony, both sides and totals. We got Texas and Kansas, top of the card here of the section we're going over. This is 125, 126 to start it off, guys. 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific on ESPN2. We got the Texas Longhorns laying 30 points, road favorites here, 59.5 being the total at Kansas, Tony.
Yeah, listen, it's really easy to basically stick Kansas in the back burner or kick them to the curb. They have been about as bad on the field as they have been against the spread, and that's not very good, to be honest with you. Last week, listen, I spoke to a lot of, and I have some Kansas sources. I have a lot of Kansas roots, to be truthful, being from Lawrence, Kansas myself, at least born and raised there. And last week, there was a lot of talk about this team. The quarterbacks were playing. Basically, the whole system and the whole rotation that they were adding and working on the last few games of the season under Les Miles was looking good, and they were showing some promise, and they did actually play a lot better last week. So this is a lot of points to lay. Texas has a lot to play for. They're still grinding away. They still think that they're, if you ask anybody that's a Texas fan, still believes that they're one of the better teams in the Big 12, despite what the record is. And, of course, everyone believes Herman's coaching for his job. Is he going to have it at the end of the season? We don't know. But losing to Kansas would simply not go over very well. So I would say here, if you're on this game, you're probably on Texas, or you're out of the room. So it's tough to just lay 30. I wouldn't trust that Tom Herman's not up to something and going to go to all means to get a win and get one by margin.
Tony, next game up, heading to the AAC 3:30 Eastern kick in this one. Houston at Memphis on ESPNU. We got the Houston Cougars laying 5 on the road, 62.5 being the total in the Liberty Bowl.
Well, Brady White has done about all you can do for a team that's offensively efficient and proficient. The problem is they have been scored on as much as they've scored. That really the problem has been the fact that they've given up big plays. They have been optimistic as a defense, but if I'm going to be in this game, and I am a little bit in this game, I'm on the over, the total in this, the over 63. Right? What was the latest number on that? I'm sorry.
Like in the over of 63. You can get it at 62.5, but it's 63.
There you go.
Like in the over, up and down the field in the Liberty Bowl on Saturday. We get heading to the Mountain West up next, 129, 130, 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific kick here. We got Boise State at Wyoming. This one on CBS Sports Network. Boise State, the Broncos, laying 11 in the hook. Road favorites here, 46.5 or 47 being the total in Laramie, Wyoming, Tony.
Yeah, listen, Wyoming is typically always reliable. They're always a team that's going to come prepared. Of course, this is a different season. This is 2020. This is the season of the Rona, and we won't call her any names right now. I've done plenty of that. I'm going to tell you right now, Boise has a lot of holes. They don't have the speed in the secondary that I initially thought they would. If you watch them play Hawaii, it was really good evidence of a Hawaii team that just kept throwing the ball deep, and they kept connecting. And the receivers in Hawaii got behind these Boise defensive backs far too often. This is a game where I would like to take Boise, but I'm going to do the same thing we did on the Houston-Memphis game. I'm going to, in Wyoming, as long as the weather is what it's saying it's going to be right now, play over the 48, 49, whatever you can get.
All right, looking towards the over in the Mountain West game in that one. We got Big 12 up next. Oklahoma State, the Cowboys at the Baylor Bears on ESPNU, 7 p.m. Eastern kick in this one. We got -5 in the hook. That's the Cowboys laying in Waco, 49 total.
There was a lot of people, and I have a lot of contacts in the Big 12, and they were really concerned about this Oklahoma State team offensively, and the concerns were justified. When was the last time you had or watched or viewed or read a box score of a Mike Gundy team that had not only lost 3 outright, 3 of 5, that their offense wasn't what it typically always is. It's always efficient. It's always explosive. They're always a threat to put up 6 points on any given play. And this year they've been more of a defensive team. But Baylor is coming off a couple games, especially last week, that's exhausting. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to take Oklahoma State on the road minus the touchdown.
Mike Gundy, he's a man. He's 40.
Yeah. Yes.
Is he still rocking a mullet?
He is. He's still in some ways. It's he was rocking. I think he was rocking a porn stash earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he still has the mullet.
Good for him. I actually saw a special on him talking about the mullet. The man. He's 40. He lives like on a farm, and he's got a bunch of goats and
it is Oklahoma, and now I'm sure we could get emails, but I mean Oklahoma is primarily rural. If you're outside, if you're not in Oklahoma City, or even if you're in Tulsa, and you're hanging out with Eric Clapton, you're kind of on your own little corner of the world there.
Yeah, no, nothing against it. That sounds pretty awesome. It's just something you don't normally hear about with college.
Well, I don't know how much fun I'd have with roosters and pigs squawking when I'm trying to get my work done. But go ahead,
Tony. Actually, roosters are kind of overrated in my opinion.
They might be.
Living in Costa Rica, everybody had roosters, and then at 7 a.m. they're all going off. And
hold on, really?
It's a little bit, annoying.
They must have had some of that Panamanian cocaine if those roosters were squawking at 7 o'clock in the morning or something.
Well, they go off in when the sun comes up. All you have to do is go down to Dade County down there in Hialeah. They all got roosters too.
Really? Well, maybe they're vampire roosters. The sun came out and it hurts or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, either way, we'll move down the list here, going from roosters and Colombian, some sort of thing that you brought up there, and we'll head to Louisiana Tech at TCU. And an interesting kind of out-of-conference matchup here. 133, 134, the rotation number. 7 p.m. Eastern kick in this one. We got 52.5 being the total. -21 in the hook here. That's TCU at home in Fort Worth.
It's a big number for the problems that TCU has right now. And, this has to be in some degree a frog's letdown situation. And I'll take La Tech in this situation. I know La Tech's not at their best right now, but TCU, I just don't think TCU deserves to be a 3-point touchdown favorite over anybody, whether it be Mississippi State. Or maybe they might be. No, I'm just kidding you. No, I will take La Tech here and the points against TCU. Absolutely.
The Louisiana Tech Bulldogs from Ruston, Louisiana, behind Skip Holtz, the head coach there. He's actually done a pretty good job. He's been there a while, Tony.
Yes, he has. Yeah. I've been waiting for him to get that Notre Dame job, but it hadn't come up for him yet.
No, I'm surprised. Most people like him don't stay there that long. They either, the program gets dry and they get fired, or they get a bigger job. But he's been able to maintain staying there in Ruston, Louisiana. Kind of surprising to me, anyway.
Not only that, Drew, he has some pretty good numbers down there. If and much better than Gary Patterson's numbers right now. I mean, Gary Patterson's home chalk. I think in the last 3 years or 4 years, 6-16-1. I think that's since 2016. And that's a guess. I just remember reading it earlier this year, and that Skip he's got a pretty long running success as an underdog, and I think he was almost 70% as an underdog, something like 20-8 or 22-10, something to that degree. But I know those percentages are accurate, and if you're a trend person, then you're all over La Tech here.
Ooh, like in Louisiana Tech, maybe at the Big 12 school. I like that look, catching, if they lose by 3 touchdowns, you still cash your bet there
Yes,
on Louisiana Tech. So
yeah.
good stuff, Tony. We got Utah State at Colorado State up next in the Mountain West, 51.5 being the total, minus 13.5. That's the Rams. Colorado State laying at home, Tony.
If you can listen, everyone's listening right now. If you have if you don't have the secret to the pandemic or the cure for that, or the vaccine formula, the chemical formula, then please, you must have the formula for what drives Utah State to the end zone. And this is a team that, after 3 games, the most they've scored was 13 points. They were 0-3 and really looking like a team that wasn't going to win a game. They'd changed coaches. Their coach has been, that's kind of a secretive deal too. If you have some information on that, they dismiss the coach, or the coach just quits. They put the interim in there. I can't remember the kid's name, the guy's name. I apologize for that. But long story short, he dismisses the quarterback. And in the interview on the dismissal, a question from the media, from one of us, Drew, said basically, we understand you dismissed him. Why did you dismiss him? And he said, why I dismissed the kid is between him and I. And he went on to basically say, and I didn't dismiss him for anything that he had done on the field or off the field. He's a fine man. And that was the end of that interview. And, you kind of shake your head. You're not going to tell us why you dismissed him, but you sure told him why you didn't. And that doesn't explain. It really makes it even more of a cure. But long story short here, Colorado State's done a very good job. Special teams. They have, they also have some quarterback issues there. They couldn't decide earlier in the year which quarterback they were going to go with. And since they've kind of settled in, they did a job to Wyoming. After Wyoming had put an absolute arse kicking on a good team, and outside of Laramie, I don't think Wyoming is going to be somebody you can rely on. Even this week, I don't think you can rely on in Laramie. And I like Colorado State here, minus the 2 touchdowns against Utah State. I think it's a safe, one of the better bets this week, in fact.
Like in the CSU Rams.
Yeah.
Minus the 2 touchdowns, minus 13.5 if you can find it. Guys, he's Tony Finn on Twitter, @Finn @WagerTalk. Welcome in if you're watching live. Simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. And also wherever you're downloading your podcasts at, remember the Sports Memo podcast, breaking down each and every college football game on the slate each and every weekend that college football has regular season. We'll also do bowls as long as we'll do every bowl that they put out. I know that there are some bowls, Tony, already that have canceled, but there's also other bowls that have already sent out invitations and teams have accepted. I know UCF is in the Boca Bowl. There might be a couple more. I'm not sure. Do you know?
I don't know. No, well, I've done the same as you. Most of that I'll skip over reading right now. Yeah, that's okay. And as much information as you and I have to ingest and then digest, sometimes which bowls are what in early December seems to be. It is on my back burner, but I'm sorry. Some will be here, some won't be, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know it either. I was just wondering if you knew off the top of your head, but we do have Tony Finn here, WagerTalk.com, 8-3 to start the season in college basketball. So he's seeing it well out the gate. He's also 16-4, 75% college basketball dating back to last March Madness. So at a 75% run in college basketball. And then the pandemic hurt you. I was on a hot run too, Tony. And it came crashing down with this dang pandemic, right?
The truth is I have not handled the I've been, I think, fairly pedestrian. In fact, very pedestrian since I did fairly well in the NBA to finish that season off. MLB was always strong, but and here it is, and I'll spill it out. A lot of why I'm successful is because of the network I set up, and most of those are beat writers that I've known for some for 20 years, some for 2 days, some for 20 years, and I always seem to have my guys always seem to have a good pulse on a team and what the locker room's like, and it's a big part of my handicap, and it should be a big part of everyone's if they have that opportunity, and I always have. And this year it's been very difficult because for the most part no one's been allowed. It's all been done virtually, so there was a little bit of an adjustment for me. I haven't been a disaster, but some might argue that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but guys, check him out. He's done very well in college basketball. He's seen it well. College basketball in full swing now. In my opinion, the best sport to win at. But my favorite sport here, college football, is what we're breaking down.
Yeah.
We got UNLV at Hawaii up next, Tony. This is the Degenerate Special, the last game on the board Saturday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific kick here. Last game on the board, guys. Tony, we always tell people, don't bet what you can't afford to lose. You don't have to bet it, saying all of that. If somebody has to bet this game, side or total, if you got a lean, give it to us. If you got a full bet and something you really like, that is even better. 57 being the total, minus 20 points here. That's the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors at home hosting our UNLV Rebels.
Yeah, I tried to call Tony Sanchez, but he wasn't answering. So that's a joke too. But
yeah, where's he at? He's still in Vegas?
I don't know where he's at. But we know where Todd Graham is, and actually Todd Graham's done a pretty good job with his Hawaii team. This is a team they've outperformed my expectations already. This is a team that can get up and down the field offensively without question. You've seen them do it. You've seen them do it against better than average, above average defenses. Let's just say right now the Rebels defense I think ranks about 100. They're between 115th and 120th in FBS, which isn't good, fellas and ladies. And I think that Hawaii scores enough to cover this number today, and UNLV doesn't. I listen, feel comfortable laying at 21, 20 and a half, whatever you get to lay.
Lay it with the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Yeah. I'm with you. It's just a tough one for me, Tony. We got Ashley Wade in here. She is in Hawaii. Guys, anybody else out here, watching live simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, let us know where you're watching from. Anywhere cool? And by the way, anywhere is cool. If you're in Mexico, if you're in Louisiana.
Mexico. Yeah.
Well, and by the way, guys, we got a Mexican story, a Tijuana story coming up at the end from Tony Finn after we get his best bet. So you're going to want to stay tuned to that. Tony Finn knows the.
I didn't get that rated. It's so I'm not sure it's approved for this broadcast, but what the hell? Let's go.
Yeah, we're just going to let it fly anyway. Yeah. We got Auburn at Mississippi State up next. 7:30 Eastern kick, 4:30 Pacific. The War Eagles come to face the Bulldogs in Starkville, Mississippi. This one on SEC Network. We got Auburn laying 13 as the road favorite here. Tony, 54. Or excuse me, that is the wrong number, guys. I was reading the wrong game. Excuse me, guys. Auburn -6 in the hook road favorites, 49 being the total in Starkville, Tony.
There's a couple things that I'm a big Mike Leach fan. I really am. Even though he locked the kid in the closet, and all that story back when he was with Texas Tech, and why he's not with Texas Tech, by the way, anymore. But for those who know, they know the story. And for those who don't, Mike Leach is, in my mind, he's one of the masterminds of the air raid. He's not just a part of that group that came out of Oklahoma and that whole big circle that to this day still use some form or fashion of the air raid. But there's a pattern here in Mississippi State. It's been a pattern everywhere Mike Leach has been. Late in the season, his quarterback typically starts to get it. It's not an offense that's easy to learn, and it's not an offense that after you finally learn it, to execute it. But let's put it this way. I think some things are happening in Starkville, and I think this Frosh quarterback, Will Rogers, seems to be getting it. And if I'm on this game and I'm in this room, I'm on Mississippi State as a home dog.
Ooh, liking the Mississippi State as a home dog. I mean, Auburn, this is coming from an Auburn alum, Tony. Auburn struggles when they head to the state of Mississippi. It's something about it. That's
another story, too. We'll have to do that whole thing later on. But, yeah. There's a lot of people who struggle when they get to Mississippi. But go ahead. I hope there's nobody in Mississippi in the audience.
Why? What do you mean by that?
No, I forget I said that. Forget it, because you're going to get me on a 10-minute run here where I have a 2-minute segment and I take 10 minutes of time up for one game or one story. And even though Joe's not, by the way, we love Joe. He will probably be. He'll call me up and say, "Tony, you broke the internet again." There you go.
Well, and Ashley Wade chiming in, you bring up him locking kids in the closet, and I remember that. That was kind of.
Do you know who that was? Do you know?
Yeah, it was a CBS guy's son.
No,
right?
It was the ESPN guy's son. In fact, he was part of the SMU dynamic duo when they got the death penalty. It was Eric Dickerson's partner in crime. in the backfield.
Yeah.
And his name just you would do this to me. This happens to me all the time. Being 101, I forget names, but who's the guy that did all the ESPN? He's not with him anymore. He did the ESPN College Saturday. His son,
Craig James, or
yes,
James
absolutely.
Craig or something.
Craig James. That's it. Thank you very much. How can you forget Craig James, the guy with two first names? Craig James' son. He locked Craig James' son, who was a wide receiver at Texas Tech, in the closet because he was sassy with Leach is an old school guy. I mean, he's finally accepted the fact that he has to talk to the media. I don't know if you've followed Mike Leach for years, but he was 10 times the brute to the media that a guy like Belichick is. Belichick's even warmed up to some degree,
Yeah, he has.
But Leach, he just basically said, you know what? I don't give a shit who you're the son of, and he just took him and locked him in the closet.
Yeah,
practice. Yeah, and of course, being the son of Craig James, at that time James had a little bit of pull, and ESPN is one of those small sports markets that has some pull in college football. And I guess one thing led to the guillotine, and there it went.
Yeah, no, that was kind of a weird situation. I thought it kind of got overblown, but it is what it is. Yeah. We got a proud Babylonian saying, "What's worse, Alabama or Mississippi?" I think Alabama. I'll say something.
The same thing.
No,
they're coming the emails again. Shit.
No, and it's okay to make fun of the South, Tony. But as somebody that lived in the South for 15 years, just a little trick here. People from Georgia make fun of people from Alabama.
Yes.
People from Alabama make fun of people from Mississippi. It goes down the line that way.
And you know what? It's okay. I'm like I said, I think before the show, I grew up in a little town outside Kansas City, in the Kansas side. So if you think that you didn't get made fun of, you should live in Kansas. See how many times you go somewhere and they say, "Hey, have you seen Dorothy lately?" or something shit like that.
That's actually funny. I never heard of
that. Is it Toto? Is that Toto? Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. But then we live right next to the Ozarks too. We're about 2 hour drive from the Ozarks. And if you've seen that television series,
it's good. It's good.
Guess what? It's accurate too. By the way, I don't think that's Hollywood. That's exactly what the Ozarks are. You got Chicago, St. Louis money. The Bushes have they have an estate down there on the Ozarks that's stupid. I mean, I've never seen anybody on it. It takes up half the state of Missouri and drifts into Arkansas too. So and then of course, if you get too deep into those hills off at the lake, and you run into a still, there's only about a 50-50 chance you're going to make it out alive too. So.
Yeah. Interesting. So the Ozarks having dirty Mexican cartel money flying around there. That's all real.
That's yes. Absolutely real. And it's a good show. If those who are watching haven't seen it, I think they're on. I think they have one more season, if I'm not mistaken. I think this will be the last season of it, but I think they've had 2 or 3, haven't they? Have you watched the whole thing?
Yeah,
it's worth watching though. Yeah,
they're having one more season for sure. Right. City by the Bay saying Wizard of Oz is nothing to be ashamed of, Tony.
I listen. If there's one thing that's very difficult to do in my life, it's pretty hard to embarrass me, and it's really hard to get under my skin. And I'm certainly you're not going to get under my skin by telling me that I look something like the Tin Man, or I handicap like the Scarecrow. Something that's just not going to bother me.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not ashamed of anything. Well, I'm ashamed of a few things. We're not going to talk about those either. So let's move on.
Yeah, no more stereotypes.
One time in college, and I'm not proud of it. So there he has that. That should pretty much start some stories too.
Well, as somebody that's lived in the state of Alabama for 5 years, the state of Georgia for 8 years, I consider myself a Southerner more than anything, Tony. And talking about the South, we got the SEC matchup here, the number 1 team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and in defense of the SEC, the South. How many top 100 universities are in the SEC? You won't hear a lot of media talk about this, but 8. So to talk about the academia of the academic universities in the SEC, it's actually not all that bad. Only behind the ACC and Big Ten, I believe. But we are talking about the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, a top 100 university academically, but number 1 in college football. Minus 32-point favorites on the road at Arkansas here, Tony. 68 being the total.
Arkansas is better than I would say, and you would probably agree with this, Drew, that they have outperformed expectations. At least they did for me. And in fact, I've been fairly successful with them this year against the spread on a couple occasions. In occasions that some eyebrows were raised as far as was I crazy? But more than anything here is anytime, guys, and this is just my opinion, my theory. I don't know whether you agree or not, Drew, but when you're looking at a college football game and the number is 30 or more, there's really not much you need to know about this game. The only thing you need to know is, does Coach Saban want to win by 30 points or more? Or does here's the and I believe this wholeheartedly, he'll never ever Saban's one of the guys I don't play. I don't bet on when the number's 30. He has a lot of, believe it or not, Saban has a lot of friends, and people say he didn't have any friends. He has a lot of friends, and a lot of friends are on the other sideline, and he has some enemies, and those enemies are on the other sideline. Know the difference between the two, because if he doesn't like the other team, he doesn't like the other coach, or something is up. And this Alabama team can win by as many points as they want to against most every team in the country. There are a few exceptions, obviously, that have the caliber of 4 and 5 stars that they have. But any college team, when you see a number that's minus 30 or more, there's no handicap involved in this, in my opinion. This is one question only. They're going to win by as many as they want to. Are they going to, or do they want to cover the spread? That's all you have to ask yourself.
Tony, I thought that you said that very well, because I forget who said it, but somebody was saying like, oh, Alabama, lay the number. Nick Saban loves running it up. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, no, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
This year they're 7-2 ATS. So people are kind of thinking Alabama is a great bet on team. But you look over like the course of Nick Saban's career, obviously one of the best coaches in college football, Tony, but he does not run it up when he doesn't want to. When he's facing a former assistant that he gets along with, he'll actually just sit on it in the second half. That's why his ATS record over the long haul is not that great, Tony. So I'm with
pedestrian. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. And Nick, and another thing is, he's not a guy that's easy to read. There's some guys that all you have to do is listen to a few interviews, a few pressers before the games, after the last game. A lot of times they will unintentionally, subconsciously reveal their feelings about the other team, the other coach, what they're going to do. It's amazing how I will probably listen to 100 to 120 interviews during the course of a football season. It gets even more this time of year when I'm trying to track some information down on some college basketball teams that I might not have through a beat writer. And you're absolutely right. Saban, not only does he not run it up, he's another guy that's very difficult to read. Extremely difficult to read. He's also not going to apologize for winning by 100 too. So if his team ends up covering a number against a friend, if you could read lips, he's out in the center, he's out in the 50-yard line in the middle of the field saying, didn't mean to run this up on you, partner. Shit happens, and on they go.
Yeah, and not to mention what Arkansas is 7-2 ATS themselves this year. Right. They've been a great bet, a lot better, like you talked about, than people giving them credit for. So good stuff there, Tony. And talking about reading quotes, kind of going through coach speak. Mm-hmm. One interesting game here. It's not one of the games we're talking about, but it's Mac Brown versus Diaz for Miami this weekend, UNC versus Miami. And Mac Brown fired Manny Diaz in 2013 as his defensive coordinator. Do you think there's anything there, Tony, or no? Because I've searched the quotes and it's all professional. It's all, he did what he had to do. I did what I had to do. We're going to go play the game, that kind of stuff. But do you think there's something behind that kind of stuff? And do you look to bet on that?
I do. If there's something behind it. Mac Brown's another guy that has got pretty thick skin, and the coaches he puts around him are much like him. They're thick-skinned, and typically there's only 2 times of firings. Also, for the most part, obviously there are aberrations, there are exceptions to the rule, but there are only 2 kinds. One that's orchestrated; they know it's coming. It's scripted, it's choreographed. Most of the time they leave friends, or it's completely hostile. It's bitter, and it wasn't expected, nor did they want to accept it. But for the most part, there's been plenty of times I know personal guys who coach for some coaches that are about as professional as they come, and they list them as being fired. However, there's an agreement that they're going to get they're going to be catch on somewhere else under that network of coaches, which is huge. And you know that in college football, and they're going to get a lump sum of money too. Not only if they're fired, typically they're going to get the remainder of their contract. Sometimes that's not the truth or not the case with assistant coaches. Depends on the team, depends on the wherewithal they have financially and what their program is. But for this case, I don't think it's a big deal. I really don't think it's a big deal. I've not heard anything that was a big deal, and I think North Carolina needs to be careful. I mean, they can score with anybody. You know that. But as far as preventing stopping the other team from scoring, I think Mac is more interested in winning this game than trying to deliver a blow if he does have any kind of a hard on for Diaz. You know what I mean?
For sure, Tony. We got one game left here in this section, guys. We'll get Tony's most confident play and a quick story on gambling in Tijuana. I'm not sure if gambling, but it has to do with Tijuana, Mexico, and Tony Finn, so it does sound interesting. So stay tuned for that, guys. If you're liking the content, please smash the like button on YouTube. If you're watching live, simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Come join us in the chat box. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're looking to bet on, and anything else you want to throw out there. Where you're watching from, that all works. If you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a line below in the comments below on YouTube, and also podcast form, wherever you're downloading your podcast at Sports Memo Podcast. Check out Tony Finn on WagerTalk.com. He's hot out the gate in college basketball. We got a top 25 matchup here in the SEC to end it, Tony. 305-306, Georgia at Missouri. We got 54 being the total, with the Georgia Bulldogs laying 13 in the hook in Columbia, Missouri.
Missouri's pretty interesting, aren't they? If you're an SEC fan, and I think you follow the SEC, Drew, yeah, pretty interesting team. And the fact that a new first-year coach comes in for a coach that was defensively heavy, if he could be, in a school that really hasn't found their way around the football, around the gridiron since they joined the SEC. In truth, there's been a couple seasons they were competitive. They've had a couple NFL quarterbacks, or at least Locke is I think Locke is probably a kid that's going to hang around for a while. I think you probably agree with that. May not be with Denver, but he's capable, he's talented, and you don't know what you're getting with this Missouri team. Earlier in the season, they took part in some low scoring affairs. In one game, and it's off the top of my head. This is how many box scores and such I read, but you might be able to help me with this. They possessed the ball for, I think, 40 minutes. Was it 44 minutes? In the 40s. And they were going to be running the football, owning time of possession, and playing a gambling, technically sound, but gambling defense, if you can do that. And they've done that for the most part. They've surprised, they've disappointed, but for the most part, I think they're better than advertised by the Missouri contacts I have. They're in Columbia, Missouri, and the newspaper there, even at the Kansas City Star. And it's one of those things where I'm either on Missouri, and I have been that way for about 4 or 5 weeks, or I'm not in the room. So in this situation, I'm telling you, I'm not in the room on this, because I would be on Georgia. I have a place in a warm spot, some part of my body. I think it's a heart, if I have one of those, for Smart. I really like him. I think his recruiting style and ability is over the top. I think it's second only to Saban. And if you knew, the listeners here, you may know as well, if you knew what Georgia or Alabama spent on a team of recruiters, and it is a team. They are not just a team. They probably have their own Learjet, and they're at every corner of the earth as much as they can get there. When they get the word somebody might be just considering not signing with another team, and Alabama, one of them, they're there. So long story short on that is that Georgia has a lot to prove. The quarterback situation they have there really has been their Achilles. Defensively, they have not performed like they did last year, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have not been good enough offensively to keep that. Even their players are not aliens that I know of. They're human, and they've been on the field too much more than a Georgia defense and that way that scheme's set up to be. And if you have any issues about whether Smart can recruit players, the reason that Fields is in Ohio State right now, Why is that, Drew? Because he could not get a snap in the Georgia backfield. That's how good everybody is on this Georgia team. They over the top talented, just unbelievable. And as long as he's there, they'll have the they'll have the talent. They'll have the personnel. It's whether he can put both together, the defense and the offense. But Fields, when he committed to Georgia, I thought, wow. And they, at that time, we could go through the quarterbacks they had. It's just stupid, crazy good. They're the water boy there could probably start for a Division II school. I understand that to be a water boy, you have to be pretty talented too. At least you have to be recruited to be a water boy. I'm just kidding, but that's what the world in the SEC is, as you know.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of talent, and he's done a great job recruiting. You say maybe second to Saban. It's actually one year I think he out-recruited him.
He did.
And
absolutely.
Of course, he worked for Nick Saban for a while as the defense coordinator. So obviously, and that's what happens in college football. You can't keep your assistants too long because they learn what you're doing good, especially if you're good. And then another university comes over and says, do what you just learned here. It's kind of just happens, and it kind of goes around full circle. And of course, Georgia's now doing pretty much what Kirby Smart learned at Alabama. So it all makes sense. And guys, we got a most confident play and a Tijuana story coming from Tony Finn here. 8-3, 73% college basketball to begin this season. 16-4 going back to when college basketball shut down. He's hot right now, 75%. Check him out. College basketball, college football up, NFL as well. WagerTalk.com. Handicapper page, Tony Finn. So Tony, you want to hit us here with a Tijuana story? You think the listeners will find it?
They probably will. In fact, this is a story that that I don't share a whole lot with because I don't typically, when I'm telling my story, it's face to face or something. And I have quite a few stories that are interesting. Some are funny, some are sad, some are unbelievable. And many of them are unbelievable. This one might even be a little bit unbelievable, but I'll try to keep it simple and not convolute it too much because it was a convoluted story. It was a strange story, but it was, in the end, it was a funny story, and you learn a little bit. And I was doing some consulting work for a firm that was working with the Mexican government in their calientes, and calientes are they're like a Will Hill of Mexico for those who've not been on the border, our southern border. And before sports betting became as prevalent as it is now, and obviously is available no matter where you're at now, and even legal, that's really always been the big question mark, that you could be on the Mexican border, you can just cross over and jump into a caliente and make your lunch money bets or whatever. Essentially what they are is a Circle K, or they're a Rebel here in Las Vegas. They are just a shop that you walk in, you can get a bad hot dog and a cold beer and make a bet on anything you want to make a bet on. Any American sports, any North American. Listen, most of the people off the border, if you're at a caliente south of the border, then most of their money, most of their handle is soccer. And the Mexican League it's a good soccer league. There would probably be some people who would argue with me on that too, that would say it's not really good. I always found it entertaining. I always found it fun. And I always found a fix somewhere, somehow, some way. There was always good information from the Mexican League that you could make $1 or $2. On any given night of the week, you might be down there. You might be hanging out. The Caliente, they serve a beer. You can sit at a table and watch the game with your buddies or your friends. And but there's plenty of taverns, plenty of bars, plenty of places to drink some good Tijuana and some excellent mezcal, and get mezcal much more reasonable than you would get here too, because to get a bottle of mezcal, you're talking about $150 a bottle. So it's not something that's drank a lot. In fact, I don't like to pay for it either. I sure like to drink it, but I don't like to pay for it. And so I'm down there with a group of guys, and I would stay down there for 5 days, and then I would come home for a couple of days, and then I'd see my wife and kids, and then I'd go back down there. Some days I would go for 2 weeks, but most of the time I would fly into San Diego and then jump on the tram. I'd be in Tijuana in 20 minutes. It takes a whole 5 seconds to drive across the border into Mexico, and it takes about 5 minutes to walk across the bridge into Mexico. No IDs necessary, nothing necessary. Now, getting out, guys, a much different story. Much different story. In Tijuana, the busiest border in the world. If you're in your car in a non high traffic time of the day, it's 3 to 4 hours. If you're trying to get over on a Friday night or a Friday afternoon or that kind of thing, more, unless you have a government pass and a sticker that gives you what essentially is a fast lane pass, which is, if you can get that, do it, do it. I couldn't even get that, even though I was doing some helping, essentially working for somebody who was contracted by the Mexican government. But we're down there, we're drinking one night, and I had some information from a buddy of mine in Tijuana that deals with the Tijuana club, the soccer club. And this was going to happen. And I jumped on a plane that morning and was headed down to Guadalajara because I had some business down there. And so I got invited by my partner down there. My partner meaning my business or my company partner, the guy that asked me to help. And we all went out drinking. And the question came up, what are we betting on tonight? And so I typically don't. I share more stories now than I ever shared down there. And I happened to share the story that I talked to, I won't mention his name, such and such, with the Tijuana Soccer Club. And they knew him. And they loved my information. And we were with a group of people who were, and I don't know who they were associated with. Here, this whole funny thing about it is I don't know, but you could tell they seemed to be educated. They were well spoken, well dressed. They spoke a couple different languages, some of them 3 or 4 languages. Okay, and so we're partying, we're drinking, and I give them all this. This information, and these guys are betting big money, and the information the tip I got was wrong. It was wrong.
Oh,
and
no.
so, yeah, right. And so what we got here is we've got a table guys who had to get permission to make some of the bets they were making, because some of them would be equivalent to $50,000 or $100,000. And Calientes don't take that kind of money. And if you're going to bet that money, it's got to come from the top, and you make a phone call. And these guys had connections with that Caliente, obviously, because they didn't have to do a whole lot to get a big wager in, and they did. And this whole table, and I'm sitting there thinking, Tony, I said, I'm talking to myself, and I said, Self, I don't think you should have probably given that tip out this, because if this thing goes south, it's not going to end well. It's just not going to end well. What the hell's wrong with you? It's amazing what a couple of mezcals will do. So at the end of the night, I mean, I'm pretty lit, guys. I'm already got a hotel. I'm only about a hop, skip, and a couple trips over the curb drunk to get there to my hotel room. It's okay. I'm going to make it. And the next thing I remember, is I'm at this like warehouse in Mexico, and look, this is no crap. Okay, no crap. It's like a compound almost, right? And I wake up, and it's like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I'm on a little cot, and there's a bunch of guys still sitting around people drinking. And I wake up, and in my bad Spanish, my broken Spanish, I said, hey guys, what the fuck's going on? I mean, what the hell's going on? And they all just turn around and just stare at me. Okay, they're laughing, and they stare at me. And then I start talking to myself again. And I said, Self, you should have snuck the hell out of here when you had a chance. And so they all walk over. They invite me to this table. And I could tell the story long, but I'm going to make it short. Just imagine that you're having a bad Halloween night, okay? And that everyone around you, one's Frankenstein, one is and it's bad, okay? It's bad because I don't know what's going on. I'm still not right. I don't know why I passed out in the first place, other than it may have been too much mezcal, because for those of you that are my age and are a product of the 60s, you probably know what mescaline is. So I'm guessing that somehow, some way, I've been roofied or something. It wasn't roofied because I could actually move my extremities, but so one thing leads to another, and I'm telling you, I am absolutely convinced. I'm convinced that this isn't going to end well, and that in truth, I don't know where my phone is. I don't know where anything is. It's basically, and I just. They started talking, and I could pick up a little bit of I don't know Spanish real well, but I pick up a little bit. And they were saying some things that I didn't like. Okay, I didn't like, and I wasn't comfortable with it. So after about 5 minutes of them not paying attention to me, me sitting there, I said, guys, could I get another mezcal? In fact, can I get the damn bottle? Because I think I'm going to need it. And at that point in time, they all just broke out laughing, rolling on the floor. And in comes my partner from the other room. And this is no crap, guys. They all start laughing, and he's talking to me. He's going, Tony, did you look behind you? Did you look where your cot was? Did you look where you woke up at? And I turned around, and behind my cot, there's about, I'm guessing because I didn't know. I didn't ask, Drew, but there's probably about 200, 300 huge, how you circle, you bale hay, about 200 bales of marijuana stacked up against the back of this compound tent. And in the other corner, there's some sacks, and I did not want to ask what was in there because I was afraid. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. To this day, I don't want to know. But the part I didn't tell you was there's guys at the door. They got some guns hanging over the shoulder. But then that's not that unusual in Mexico because the guys just walk. There's a lot of federales just walk up down the street with guns, But the whole thing was a joke. The guy was in on it from the Tijuana club. Okay, he gave me information he knew was wrong. It was going to be wrong, and if it went right, then then the joke was going to be. It wasn't going to be a very good joke, right? The guys weren't actually betting on the team. The whole thing. My partner and I set this whole thing up, and they had actually knew they'd give me. They slipped. I don't know what they slipped me. I didn't care, but it basically did was. It just probably was a muscle relaxer because if you ever had one of those and if you had too much of that, it just puts you to sleep. It relaxes you so much. If you get some alcohol, and that's what it was. It put me to sleep for about 6 hours, and they knew I'd probably be sleeping about 6 hours. And in fact, the joke didn't go as far as one. But here's the deal: lesson learned. If you're at a caliente in Mexico, and a bunch of gangsters come up that are well dressed, and I'm talking Chicago 30s dressed to the hilt. Bam, good, sharp guys that could talk articulate and didn't have to cuss every other word, like I do. Don't give them any betting tips. Do not do it, joke or not. But the long story is that, listen, I missed my plane. I missed getting home to my wife, and it was my anniversary weekend. I hadn't told anybody, So I had to explain this whole story to my wife, to my kids. And to this day, if you ask my wife about the story, she's probably going to hit you right in the mouth because she doesn't believe me to this day. She thinks that I got a little inebriated and just happened to miss the plane and miss the anniversary and that I'd forgotten about my present. So I know that probably wasn't as interesting as some Tijuana stories I have, but it's a lesson. And if you know me very well, I'm not scared of too many things. At 61, I've lived through a lot of things, and I'm certainly not scared of meeting my maker because I know it's any day now. I've taken poor care of myself, and every day I've in my household, my wife wakes up. I wake up in the morning, and I literally backhand her. And I don't backhand her that hard, but I backhand her every morning. 27 years, Drew. 27 years. She has woke up startled. Every morning startled, and I say the same thing to her every morning. I say, "Good morning. It's a damn good day. I get another chance to F something up and piss you off." And she, to this day, she's it's not even 6 a.m. and you've already pissed me off. And she goes back to bed, and I go, "It's a good day. I woke up. It's a good day, guys."
Tony, that was
all
great.
Your bets, huh?
No, good stuff, man. That was great. From Tijuana to Guadalajara to have too much to drink, giving out some bad information.
I think you're going to die. I didn't tell her. I really thought I was dead, guys. I really thought, well, you know what? I'm not going anywhere. I'm surely not going to beg for my life. That's not worth anything to beg for. Just give me another bottle of mezcal, and I will kill the pain a little bit because I really thought it was the end. Seriously, I did. I wish I could tell a story with more passion. I had more time. I'd lay it out and drag it out for you. But I'm glad you had me. And next time I come on, if anybody complains about my stories, we'll tell another one just to piss them off.
Yeah, for sure. We'll tell some more Mexican stories the next time you're on the Every Game on the Board podcast. He's Tony Finn on Twitter at Finn WagerTalk. Guys, thanks for joining us in the chat box. Tony, can you leave us with a best bet for the pod?
And I'm going to leave you with a real square bet. Okay. I believe that if you're in my circle and the guys I talk to, and you believe that Kyle Trask is the Heisman Trophy winner, then he wins it this weekend. He wins it against an LSU defense that's not very good. And I think they not only score enough to help him win the Heisman, I think they score enough that LSU puts up 20 and they still cover the 23 or 24. Florida minus the number.
Lay in the wood with the Florida Gators, minus 23 or minus 24. If you can find it, guys. He's Tony Finn on Twitter at Finn at WagerTalk. Check them out, wagertalk.com. Hot in college basketball. We had the every game on the board. We're going to actually have mid-major back at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Not normally on Wednesdays, but we had to move the morning session. So section number 3 will be up next, guys, with mid-major Matt in about 30 minutes right here. Simulcast live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us for section number 2. We just got the best bet from Tony. Florida Gators minus the points against LSU. We also got a special first-time Mexican story on the Every Game podcast, and it looks like the chat box liking it a lot, Tony. So we'll have to do that again. Do you have a number of stories that you can tell?
I have a book. I've saved some of the stories for the book, and I'll sign all books purchased. Books are quite expensive. I trade them for a bottle of mezcal. That's what I'll do. But it'll be a good book. And Drew, we'll make a spot in there for you. We'll get you here and embarrass you a little bit and make a story out of it. So
let's do it. Let's even make our own story. Like, are you still down to go to Tijuana when this whole pandemic is over, or no? Are those days behind you?
Well, I have another story that if I go to Mexico and you're with me, and we come into the U.S., I guarantee you we're going to be pulled over the side. And the car is going to be searched completely and utterly searched, and they may tear a few seats out and look for something. And that's the honest to God truth. And that's another story. Maybe somebody wants to hear that story. I'm not certain I want to tell that story because while I'm not embarrassed about anything, it might affect my standing, my good standing, with WagerTalk. That everybody thinks I'm a Bible thumping, Sunday church going guy. They don't believe any of this stuff, do they? It's another joke.
I believe you. Why would you lie?
Believe me, I'm just telling you what I'm just telling you now. They know that's not true. They know it's not true. and that's why we're all private contractors. We're easily dispensed with. So.
Tony, I'm sure you're fine, man. Good storyteller, good handicapper, guys. Check them out. WagerTalk.com. Hot in college basketball. Got NFL going good and college football as well. So he's Tony Finn. Tony, thank you for the time. Thank you for the stories. And anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down? I'm gonna
try to make it to. You said 5:30. We got about a half hour. I'll try to be in the. I'll join the chat. And for this, I'll listen to a mid-major Matt lie about some games. How about that?
All right. Sounds good, Tony. Okay, and guys, we'll be right back with Mid-Major Bat at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Come back and join us. Please smash the like button on your way out if you like the content. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below on the YouTube channel. So, guys,